Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another beginner's guide video. We got Codebreaker starting tomorrow or today, or maybe even yesterday, just depending on when you watched the video. But we're going to talk about this event in the sense of what the deck looks like, what each game looks like. I'm going to show you how to use the solver on the website as well, give you the link for that, give you every tip and trick and all those things that I know about this event to maybe make your life easier if this is the first time you've ever played it, or maybe you just haven't played in a long time. I will have to say this event card looks absolutely sick. The image looks amazing. But first, let's jump into the deck. And you can't change the deck in this game mode. It is just like the Giants Unleashed. 4 lefts, 4 rights, 4 ups, and 4 downs. Now this event is really good for training cards. So if you do have a card that you want to try to get into this deck, I would put a momentum, obviously put an equipment on it, and hopefully it can get into your top 4 for each of the arrows. Very easy way to train cards if you can get it in there. So now let's jump into some gameplay, let you see what it actually looks like when you're playing it. And the whole objective of this actual game mode and what all of these boxes, squares, and where your deck is and all of that stuff. So first off, what you're trying to achieve in this game is to break an arrow code. And right here where it says final round, this is going to be the hidden code that you're going to try to figure out through 3 rounds of gameplay. And when I mean arrow code, those arrows are going to correspond to your cards. So you have 4 lefts, 4 rights, 4 ups, 4 downs. You are going to play these cards throughout each of the rounds, and it's going to tell you things like whether or not you have the right arrow, whether or not the arrow is in the right spot, whether or not you have the right arrow but in the wrong spot. You're going to use these hints with your cards, with these arrow cards that you have through each of the rounds to try to break the code in the final round for when you put in the code that you think it actually is. Now that might sound complicated, but there is a puzzle solver for you. I'll leave a link for that in the description. We'll also go over an example using the puzzle solver. I at least just wanted to show you what you're actually doing in each of the rounds. That way you're familiar with all of the things in here. So like I said, your deck is at the bottom right here. You have your 4 lefts, 4 rights, 4 ups, 4 downs. They are all stacked on top of each other. They're in a random order and you cannot change the order in which they are. When you play a card, that card is going to go at the bottom of your arrow deck. You have 3 rounds. Now you can put whatever card you want into this spot right here, and you're gonna battle 4 cards again every single round. Now in the beginning, the lower levels, 1, 2, and 3, when you're playing these rounds, you'll be able to beat your opponent no problem. It's not gonna be really hard. The stats are gonna be really low. It's kind of like Last Man Standing, where in the beginning, your opponents are very, very easy to beat. And as you increase the level, your opponents are going to have better and better and better stats. It's going to come to a point where even when you put in cards right here, those cards are not even going to beat your opponent to get any points. Each of the rounds, if you do beat a card, it's going to tell you, or if you beat the card, it's going to give you a certain number of points. But let's say we put in all lefts right here. You know, down here at the bottom right of each of the round, you see the 3 rounds right here, round 1, round 2, round 3. And down here at the right of the round, you're going to see 2 boxes. Now these 2 boxes, one's going to have a check mark, one's going to have a circle in it. Now the check mark means that the arrow is a correct arrow and in the right spot. The circle right below it is the correct arrow, but the arrow is in the wrong spot. So you're going to play each of these 3 rounds. Now, like I said, you're going to hopefully be using the solver, and that's going to tell you what cards to play. So you really don't even have to think about it. But like I said, you got to go through each of the rounds, and then at the final round, you're going to come to some sort of conclusion about what the final arrow code is, and you're going to put those arrows into the final round, And assuming you get it right, all 4 of the arrows, you defeat your opponents because those opponents are going to have really low stats. And then you move on to the next level. One of the things that you can use, especially in the beginning, I'm not sure how many levels it was before it stopped working, but it's like the first 30 or 40 or something like that. You can use your super move, but you only want to use your super move at the final round. It doesn't matter if you use your super move in round 1. It makes no difference. If you use your super move in the final round, you can defeat your opponent, but you don't have to actually get the correct code in order to pass the level. As long as you defeat your opponent, you move on to the next level. If you get the code right, your opponent's stats drop by like 90%. So it makes it really, really easy to beat. But you can use your super move and beat them without getting the correct code, assuming that you have full stats. And that works for the first, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 40 levels or something like that. You can use 3 types of boosts in this game mode. This refresher boost down here, which you can pull on the draft board, it will refresh all of the stats that your particular card has lost. So let's say I play all left arrows right here. Well, they're going to battle 4 cards, and those cards are going to take away stats from your cards. And once that card is finished battling, it's going to go back into your deck. And it could go back in there with 0 stats. Now, obviously, you can't beat a card with 0 stats. So there could be times in which you want to refresh that card's stats, bring it all the way back up to full power. There's also a clue right here, which is this question mark that costs 50 credits. I'm not sure if it's still 50 credits. I never buy these. But if you buy one of these, it will tell you what one of these arrows are right here. It could be a random arrow in any one of the 4, and it will tell you what it is. And then, of course, there's also doublers that you can use for points, assuming that you get through each round. So now after you put in your arrows, you're going to have opponents up here, and they are now going to battle. And you're going to try to defeat those opponents through each round. As it's taking off your stats, you see that each of your stats of your cards is going to decrease. Now, the difficulty level of your opponent, the cards that you face each round, is going to get higher and higher and higher as your levels progress. So starting in the very beginning, level 1, the card stats of your opponents is not going to be very high. But as you get to level 50, level 100, level 150, I think it maxes out at 90 or so. And then the stats are pretty much the same after that. I can't remember what level it maxes out on. But the second round, we put in all right arrows. And it said 0 with the check, 0 with the circle. So there are no right arrows in the final code. 0 in the correct location, 0 arrows correct in the wrong location. And now again, I'm just going to put in all up arrows. And this isn't going to be the way you do it when we're talking about the website solver. It's going to solve it for you. We're going to go over that here in just a second. But I wanted to show you what the gameplay actually looks like and when you get to the final round. Now, this is the final round. And this will specifically tell you if you got the right arrow in the right spot by putting a check mark there or a big X in case you don't. And so for this one, for this particular example, we know that there's 2 lefts. Well, we didn't do down, so we know that there's 2 downs as well. And so I was going to tell you, the first one's wrong, second one's right, third one's right, and the fourth one is wrong. Now, on the arrows in which they are right, the opponent's cards, the stats decrease significantly, and it is very, very easy to beat. The cards that are wrong, the stats are going to be juiced. You won't be able to beat them straight up. Now, when you come to the final round, if you have a super move, you can use a super move for the entire round. And a lot of times, just depending on what the card stats are for this particular event and what our stats are now and what yours are, I guess. most of the time you can beat them, at least in the beginning. But then later on, when you get to higher levels, you will have to figure out the code. And so once I start the game the next time, the second and the third spots, the code will be broken. It will show you where that code is, and you just have to remember to switch the other two arrows. So now let's look at the website. I'm gonna leave the link for this website in the description. So I would certainly recommend using it. You don't have to use it, but it certainly makes your life a lot easier. But we're going to talk about how you actually use it. And for this particular example, I am going to say that the code is left, left, right, up. Obviously, in the beginning of each level, you don't know what that code is, right? And you're using this website to help you figure out what the code is for all 3 rounds. But just for the sake of it, and just for the sake of this example, just so you can see that the website will get it, it's not 1000% effective all the time. I mean, there has been times in which I've used this, in which they got a couple of the arrows wrong, but most of the time, 95%, 96, 99% of the time, they are right. But like I said, we're going to go through each one of them. And again, the code that we're going to use as an example to show if this website can figure it out or not is left, left, right, up. Now, when you first start a round, it's telling you what to put into the first round. And so you're going to put in a down arrow, an up arrow, a down arrow, and then a right arrow in that order. And once you do that, you are going to tell it whether or not you have the check mark or the circle. Now, the check mark, remember, is the right arrow in the right location. The circle is the right arrow in the wrong location. And so if the code was left, left, right, up, then none of these are in the right location, but there are 2 arrows that are right, just in the wrong location. Okay, so we're going to put 2. You're going to click it exactly what it says at the end of the round, and then you're going to click next. And then once you do that, it's going to give you a new code to use for your second round. And so for this particular one, it's now telling us to do right, 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 up. And so you're going to put in right, 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 up. And for this one, it is going to be wrong, wrong, right, right. Now the right and the up are the correct arrows in the right location. And so we're going to put 2 on that because that's what your round would say when you're done. And these first 2 are still going to be wrong. And because remember, they were left, left. And so we put in our 2 and then we put in 0. We're going to click next. And then we are going to put in for the third round, round 3, it's going to say up, left, right, up. And that is going to be now 3 arrows in the correct location. And this one is not in there. Remember, the first one is still up. And so that's the end of the third round. And then finally, at the very last one, it is going to tell us our arrows or our final code. And you see that we use for the final round, and it is left, left, right, up, and they get it correct. One thing to note about each of the levels, you cannot finish the level until you break the code during the final round. So it does not matter if you put in the correct code during round 1, you still have to do the final round again with that same code in order for you to get through it. And so remembering our last example we did, we knew that that it was going to be left, down, left, right, or left, down, left, down. And you'll see that there's 4 check marks there. So we still got to go through round 1. Even though we got the code 100% correct, we did not get the code correctly during the final round. And that is what's going to be important. We have to get it during the final round. But if you do this example, I guess, whatever, where you're not using the code and you have to go to the other thing, it says round 1 results, 4 arrows in the correct location. Now, since we got 4 arrows in the correct location, we can then go to the final round and then enter in the code again to finally complete it. So if you get the code during the second round, then it'll jump up to the final round. But again, you have to have all 4 arrows in the correct spot in order for it to do that. And so since we got all of the codes in the right exact spot, their stats drop significantly, like by 90%, and you're able to beat it fairly easy. You can also use your super move. If you don't know the code, by the time the final round comes, you can still use your super move, and you should, at least in the beginning, be able to get through that and be able to defeat that level. Now let's talk about rewards, because the rewards for this event are pretty dang good. I'm gonna have to say, when you reach level 91 and higher, for every level you pass after 91, you're gonna get these gold fusion tokens, every single one of them. So it is a very viable strategy to use this event to farm the crap out of gold tokens. There are people that can get through 300, 400, 500 levels, and by the end of this event have hundreds and hundreds of these gold fusion tokens. And they are pretty valuable to be able to do fusions, obviously, especially with the higher tiered ones. So yeah, it's really, really nice. As far as the rankings go for the event, well, it's set up, the structure is exactly like every other ranked event. It's going to be the top 10,000, and the higher your rank, the better the event card. And for this particular event, they do have them all listed, unlike the last ranked event we got, where there's some reason were secret or it was glitched out or whatever. But they are here for you to actually see the difference in how high you get for rank and where your actual placement is, and how far you need to go to get to that next card. So I guess the next question really is, how much do you actually have to play in order to get this top 10,000 and get this event card? Well, in my personal opinion, I think Codebreaker is the hardest event in WWE SuperCard. Not hard in the sense of difficulty, but hard in the sense of the amount of time and effort that you have to go in and play this event in order to get a decent rank. No other event in this game, at least for me, do I have to put in more hours into the game in order to get an event card other than this one right here. This is the hardest event for me, for sure, hands down, and it's not even close. So I would keep that in mind when you're playing this event. It is very, very time consuming. I don't even think PCC doesn't even take as much time, and that shit's unlimited. This takes a lot more time and effort for me, and it's really difficult to get. But the event card is absolutely sick. It is a right arrow that's going to go really good for last man standing in just 2 weeks from now. And so I will have a last man standing guide and deck building and all of that stuff. Don't get this card and level it up to max if it's going to screw up your last man standing deck. I mean, you can, of course, but in case you want to prepare for that and prepare for the next video, then you might want to hold off a little bit. But either way, of course, we'll be streaming this live when it does go live on Thursday. So come to the stream, check us out, either hang out on YouTube or go in the description, find Twitch below. Don't forget to use the website as well. Let me know in the comments if you have any other questions. I pretty much think that I went over everything. There's not a lot to this event, especially if you use the website. You can't change the deck. The website does the entire solver for you. And then after that, you just basically finish each round. But either way, if the video helped you, be sure you hit that thumbs up. Come hang out in the stream with us, or I'll see y'all in the next video. Y'all take it easy. Have a good rest of your day, and we are out. Peace.